Hello, honors, freshman literature and composition classes. This is Mrs. Moore, and I know this does not take the place of me standing in front of you and meeting you in person, but I wanted to try to make a video so that you can at least hear my voice and so I can answer some of the questions that I know you have at the beginning of this school year. I'm so deeply sorry that I'm not there to meet you quite yet, but I'm looking forward to getting back in the classroom and getting to know each of you. In the meantime, this video is going to have to do for now, and if you have any questions following it, feel free to ask them of Mr. German or send me an email and I will do my best to answer from afar. But I promise all of you that when I'm back, we will take care of everything that's been sort of left untied. And so I ask you to kind of just have faith in the process, show up every day, and do the very best that you can. And if you do that, you will be successful. I want to show you now where the course overview is located. This is the home page for our class, and if you'll notice, there's a link for FLCH reference documents. If you click on that, you'll see a lot of the actual items that you need. You'll see the student survey and the parent survey, which I would like both you and your parents to complete before next Friday. You will also see a link to sign up for the WIW, which you'll hear more about during our library orientation in a few weeks. There's a link to directions for how to sign up for Remind.com. And as I get back into things, I will use that to send out reminders for the people who actually register for that. So I think that could be really helpful. You'll also notice a link for the academic ethics statement, which I'd also like you to review with your parents by next Friday. And then you just click on the button to confirm that you've done that. The practice Googling that's appearing on my screen is actually not on your screen. That will be something that you will work with Mr. German on next week. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that as that comes up. And then at the top, we have the course overview, as I mentioned. So if you click on that, it will take you to a screen that allows you to scroll through the overview. For the sake of this video, I'm going to click on a separate document just so it's a little bit bigger. This is, at the very top, this is a quote that means a lot to me, first and foremost, because I like the idea of it. The idea that you have brains in your head and you have feet in your shoes and you can steer yourself any direction you choose. You are on your own and you know what you know. You are the guy who will decide where to go. I think that's such an important thing to look at now, and I recognize that you often hear this in situations where people are graduating. So it's a pretty popular book for high school graduation, for middle school graduation, and so to give it to you at the beginning of your freshman year might seem quite strange. But I do it because I think it's important for you to recognize that you too are beginning a journey. And that journey starts the minute that you set foot in this school and you find yourself thrust into this incredible environment where you have more opportunities than you could possibly imagine. We have more clubs and activities at Upper Arlington High School than any other school in the state, and probably more than most other schools in the country. Other than The Ohio State University, we have more sports teams than any other school in the state, and that includes all of the other colleges. So I say all of that because whether you get involved in music, whether you get involved in sports, whether you find a club, you should get involved in something. I encourage people to do that every year. It gives you the chance to meet a plethora of people that you might not otherwise meet, and to test your boundaries in ways that you haven't before tested them. And so I start with this to sort of say that. And then I also ask you to think about the way that you make decisions about your classes. Throw yourself into the work that you do this year. Do your best, set yourself on a good path, and really sort of shape the identity that you want to have going forward. You start with a clean slate this year, and so you are in the driver's seat in ways that you've never been before. And so I ask all of you to consider that as you begin your year. As you scroll through the course overview, beneath that I talk to you a little bit about the course and what we're going to cover. It's very similar. It's a survey course, so it's very similar to the majority of the English classes you've had so far. We will be learning how to write various papers throughout the course of the year, learning how to revise, which is a huge component of freshman literature and composition. We will learn grammar. We will focus on reading that crosses genres, and hopefully by the end of the year you will see tremendous growth when you look back over the course of your time in our room. The texts that are listed are going to be the books that we will read for sure. There will be other texts that will come into play later in the year, particularly with our memoir unit, where there will be some choice with that. So I did not list that in this category here. But for those of you who like to run out to half-price books and buy your books in advance, you can certainly do that now for the ones that are listed on here. The materials listed, I know, generated a couple of questions. So as you look through this, in the past I've asked students to have an entire binder for my class. Because I'm going to try for the first time in my career using the online source as much as possible, I am not going to ask you to have a specific binder. You can have a section in your binder for this class for papers that just are not going to appear online primarily. And then I would like you to also have loose leaf paper just so that you can pull it out for situations where you might be doing a timed writing, or situations where you're completing an exit slip that you will write something down and hand to me. It's nice to have it in your binder. I'm asking for 2 composition books because we're going to use one for activities. So there will be a lot of situations where I ask you to jot your thoughts down, similar to the quick writes. And you're going to explore those in more detail. Then you're going to use the information you jot down in groups. You will also work on notes for graded discussions. You'll work on kind of gathering your thoughts in groups in one kind of confined spot. And the reason I'm asking you to use the composition book is because it's very hard to lose the pages in there since it's bound. And so it's a really nice way to help you stay organized and keep everything together. The journal will be the second composition book, and in that it will actually serve 2 purposes. You'll be doing some journaling on one side, and then I'll have you flip it upside down, and on the back you will start what's called a tip of the day, where we will do a lot of grammar rules or fun facts, various things about the English language that I think are important. So you'll have all of that again in the same spot. Earbuds, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. There will be videos you might watch in class or on your phone. When you get your computers, you'll be able to watch them on your computers, and so it's nice for you to be able to plug those in so that it doesn't bother anyone around you. And I think the rest of this is the writing utensils, pretty straightforward. Highlighters, you do need different colors. We highlight a lot when we're revising papers. I'll ask you to highlight specific things. So if you get 3 yellow markers, it's not really going to help you very much. You need to have at least 3 different colors. And then with the Post-it notes, they're a really nice way to be able to mark your books. If you're planning to read all of your texts online, and you are going to bring in a Nook or some other Kindle, some other device, then you don't really need the Post-it notes. But it would be nice if you had those Post-it notes particularly, or at least had access to some of them. You could borrow them for the textbook when we read the short stories. And then if you're able to bring in a box of tissues, that would be great. The season for tissues seems to be in the fall, so it's nice. We have a little bit to start, but it would be nice if we had other people kind of donate those, but they're not mandatory. The responsibilities for learning are pretty short. I tend to like to kind of keep the rules really kind of, I like to whittle them down to the most important ones, and I think it all comes down to respect. If you respect yourself, if you respect your classmates, if you respect your teachers, if you have respect for other cultures and other viewpoints, if you have respect for property, and you have respect for learning, then I think all of the other rules sort of take care of themselves. And so that is kind of really at the crux of all of it. If you have any questions, your second responsibility is to make sure that you reach out and ask. Whether you ask in class, or if you're not, if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand in class, or you can't stay after class, please feel free to send me an email. I would love to talk to you at the beginning of an issue, because I think that way we're able to come to an understanding and work through something before it becomes an area where it's created a lot of anxiety. And so I encourage all of you to really advocate for yourselves in situations where you either feel stuck, confused, frustrated, or overwhelmed. And I will be more than happy to work with you and help you find a solution. My email address is listed on there. Please note that I have 2 M's, so it's LMM OORE, so that's a little bit different than some of the other email addresses. I always encourage people to add me to their address book at the beginning of the year so that when you have an emergency and need to email me, you don't have to click back to the course overview. Most of the time what happens is people get on and email elmore@uaschools.org, and then unfortunately it ends up getting lost in the void. So if you add me to your address book, it won't be an issue. Um, and then the class details we'll go over in more detail later, but essentially I'd like your papers in MLA style. You'll learn about that next week, and I want you to keep drafts of all your papers, make sure that they're in your Google Drive, and you'll hear a little bit more about that next week and in the weeks following. And then in terms of the syllabus, in the past I actually passed out a syllabus, and then on Friday, or on Thursday, yeah, Friday actually of last week, after I had already written this on the syllabus and I haven't really had a chance to revise it because of what happened this weekend, I learned that they were encouraging us from central office to not pass out syllabi so that we don't overwhelm you. So all of the work is actually going to be posted in the calendar, so your homework will be on the calendar on Schoology. And then if you look over here at the beginning, the home page, there is a section here that says daily schedule. And once I get back kind of on my feet, I will make sure that I write out under this. I started with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but I will make sure that I add in what we're going to be doing for the week so that you're able to get an idea of what's going on in class, particularly if you're absent, or for those of you who are like me and you like to look ahead and know what's going on. In terms of the grading policy, there will be a lot of different ways that you're graded, and the details of that we'll talk about again in more detail when this comes up. But essentially, for all your major writing assignments, there will be opportunities for you to revise them and resubmit them. There's a process for that, and after you turn in your first major paper, I'll talk to you about how to do that. You do not have the chance to revise and resubmit timed writings, so that's something you definitely need to prepare for in advance and make sure that you've thought through the prompt. I always advise people to practice writing their timed writing in advance before they come in. You have the luxury of knowing the question ahead of time, which is something that you will not have starting your sophomore year. So freshman year, you're kind of learning how to do this, and so particularly as you're in the learning stage, I would definitely spend time going through and looking at all those details. And then the final thing is I expect you to do your own work, and I think that's pretty straightforward. Um, Please let me know if you have any questions about the course overview that I didn't answer, or any questions in general, if you're feeling any anxiety whatsoever. Again, I am deeply sorry that this hasn't really worked out the way any of us would have hoped. But you're in really, really good hands, and I promise I haven't abandoned you. I'm very excited to meet you, and I have so far heard really excellent things about you. I'm excited that you guys like to discuss. That will make this year very, very fun. So until then, I leave you with this little graphic. I think it speaks for itself. Trust yourself this year, and take a deep breath. Until I talk to you again, thank you.